All right, welcome back. So last time we talked all about the pleasure-pain pendulum. Today, we're going to build on that and ask a much deeper question about what's really going on with addiction.
So you probably remember the basic idea, right? To keep everything in balance, homeostasis. Your brain basically counteracts every high with an equal and opposite low. But the kicker is, with repetition, that low gets deeper. It shows up faster and it sticks around for way longer.
Okay, but that leads to this huge puzzle. I mean, if you know how bad the pain is going to be, why would anyone go back, especially after months or even years of being sober? This is the paradox the simple pendulum model doesn't quite solve, and it pushes us toward a pretty startling new way of looking at the entire problem.
What if we've been looking at this all wrong? What if addiction isn't a bug, but a feature? Not a broken brain, but a brain that has become insanely good at its job. A brain that has learned a single destructive task to perfection.
This is a really powerful idea from neuroscientist Mark Lewis. He basically says, look, addiction isn't some disease that hijacks the brain. It's the brain doing exactly what it was designed to do. Learn from powerful experiences and then automate the behaviors that lead back to them. It's a natural learning process that has just gone completely into overdrive.
And the parallel here is, well, it's kind of stunning when you see it laid out like this. Think about how you train an AI to recognize a cat. You feed it thousands and thousands of cat pictures until it just knows. Well, the addicted brain learns to want a drug by being repeatedly exposed to this massive reward. In both cases, repetition literally reshapes the system, carving pathways until the response is instant and automatic.
So how does this destructive code actually get written into our neurology? Well, it's basically a three-step learning loop, and it's all driven by the brain's obsessive need to keep things on an even keel. This is how a simple desire for pleasure can morph into a desperate need for relief.
And right here, this is the trap. The first time, the pleasure signal is huge, and the pain that follows is pretty minimal. But the brain is smart. It learns. It starts to anticipate that pleasure spike, and so it launches its counterattack, that B process, earlier and with more force each time. Pretty soon, you're not even using it to feel good anymore. You're just using it to quiet down your brain's massive, preemptive overcorrection, just to stop feeling so bad.
Which brings us right back to that central mystery. What happens after you've been sober for a while and the brain's chemistry is more or less back to normal? Well, that deeply learned program, that super efficient counter algorithm, it doesn't just get deleted.
And this is the critical point. That old code, it's still there, just lying dormant in your brain's wiring, waiting for a trigger. Your brain has learned the association so well that even a tiny hint of the old days can reactivate that entire pain and craving program automatically.
You have to understand, these triggers aren't just psychological. They're actual physical learned cues. Seeing an old friend, feeling that familiar stress from work, even just seeing the clock hit 5 p.m. can cause your brain to launch that pain process, the B process, all on its own. And suddenly you're hit with this tidal wave of anxiety and a deep physical craving. That feeling is those old neural pathways firing up, screaming for the one thing the brain has learned will shut them down.
But what's so fascinating about Brian's story is that he shows this programming can be changed. He'd have these slip-ups, but they didn't spiral into a full-blown relapse. You know why? He changed the story he told himself. Instead of seeing a lapse as a total failure, he saw it as a mistake, something to learn from. And by doing that, he was actively engaging in new learning, basically teaching his brain that the old fix wasn't the only answer anymore.
And honestly, this is the most hopeful part of this whole thing. Because if addiction is a learned process, a habit that's carved these deep grooves in our brains, that means new, healthier habits can be learned to pave over the old ones.
This is exactly why recovery is such an active, hands-on process. It takes real effort. Because every time you pick a new way to deal with stress, every time you build a new routine with friends, you are physically rewiring your brain. You're laying down new tracks, making the healthy pathways stronger and faster until they become the new automatic default.
So when you think about the brain this way, as this incredible deep learning machine, it leads to one last really fascinating question. The whole cycle of addiction, a system that optimizes for a single reward, even to its own destruction, is a pretty profound cautionary tale, isn't it? And that's exactly what we're going to explore in our next explainer, the truly surprising, and maybe a little scary, links between the mechanics of addiction and the future of artificial intelligence.